here with Andy Neary with Complete Game Consulting. If you are an advisor or you need marketing at all in your business, this is going to be an excellent podcast for you. He's taught me a lot over the years, and I think our audience will gain a lot from him. So thanks for being here, stopping by, and it's good to have you, man.
Love being here. This will be a fun conversation for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
You're a good model for what we teach.
Yeah, well, we're trying to be. So you've definitely helped us out a lot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming. Great to spend some time with you today.
You bet.
Yeah. So we started a tradition, right? So the first question is, what's the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning?
I got a cold plunge. That's the first thought going through my head. So I'm a big cold plunger. It's one thing I do in the morning. Very religious morning ritual. But yeah, I would say the first thing I think of when I get up in the morning is getting that cold plunge turned on and knowing that I'm going to have to jump into that before I do anything else. It's my way of mentally saying, all right, if I can do this first thing, what else can I do? We do hard things, right? And so I would say that is what I do in the morning, especially on in winters, Jason, in Wisconsin when they're freezing and I've got the cold plunge out in my garage. It's not something I look forward to.
How long can you go for now?
I'm not one of those, let's see how cold and how long.
Okay.
I go 3 or 4 minutes. We have it at about 48 degrees. So we're not the 30 degree, let's make this thing ice cold. Because I think it gets to a point where it just hurts. So I sit at about 48 and I go about 3 or 4 minutes.
All right, cool.
What time in the morning?
I get up about 5. And, strange thing, I used to be a big alarm clock guy. And then on days when my fiance didn't have to get up early, she got ticked because it would wake her up. And then she's like, well, now I'm up. So I said, I'm just going to literally go cold turkey without an alarm clock. And lo and behold, get up at the same time. And so I shoot for about 7.5 hours of sleep every night, get up about 5, and I'm in the cold plunge by about 5:15.
My cold plunge is at 47, but I'm not.
You got me by 1 degree, man.
No, but I'm not in there at 5:15. That's for sure.
Little known fact, though, I'm not a scientist by any means, but I used to cold plunge after exercising until I found out that's actually not very good for you, especially if you're in weight training.
Yep.
Because it's restricting the growth. So I do it before I go to the gym. Yeah.
Well, cool. When did you know that marketing kind of was your gift or your calling? Because you've been in the insurance industry and other things and sales and life insurance, cold calling and all that good stuff. So when did you kind of know that was your calling?
Yeah, and I admit, Guffey, I am a full-fledged failed life insurance sales rep because that's where I started my career. Yeah. Back then when I was given 2 pieces of advice: dye your hair gray so you look older, and go buy lunch at the most expensive place in town and go get a country club membership at a country club you can't afford because that's where the decision makers hang out, right? I think what had happened was I was selling health insurance. At that point, it had been at least a decade, and it was in 2000, I want to say 17 or 18. I was asked by a mentor of mine in the industry to help coach at a speakers academy he was hosting. Because I had done a lot of speaking to grow my business in health insurance. And so I went and coached for 2 days there, helping peers with speaking. And one of them, Jeff Fox, who is a friend of mine, a peer who's been since retired, we were having breakfast on day 2, and he's like, dude, what are you doing selling insurance? Like, you need to be coaching. Like, this is your gift, man. Mm-hmm. And I kind of put it in the back of my head, like, hey, Jeff, thanks. And then what happened was, lo and behold, some peers started reaching out to me and saying, hey, I saw what you did when you moved to Colorado. Because when we moved to Colorado in 2014, I was in a market, nobody knew me. I was starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I decided I'm not going to be the guy that just builds a business on cold calls and emails and door to door the way I was taught. I'm going to build a brand, which at the time people were like, you're an idiot, just go sell some insurance.
Yeah.
But it worked. And I went into a new market and grew a nice book. And so peers started coming to me and saying, hey, can you teach me how you did what teach me what you did? And I said, all right, cool, I'll help. Wait, you're going to pay me to do this? And all of a sudden I realized, wait, I think we've got an issue in this industry I can help solve. Because one thing I was always good at, and I don't share this a whole lot, but when I was producing, I was the guy on the team who'd always come up with the marketing idea. Mm-hmm. And he'd be like, cool, Andy, you go create it. So I'd always become the quasi-marketing department too. And I think that's where I just have always had that creative juice in me. And and said I could make it a business, and it was a side hustle for a couple of years. And then in 2021, and on January 1st, I got rid of the book and I went all in on this.
And so far, your experience the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, can you imagine if you didn't do it?
Yeah, no. I mean, we've been blessed. We've grown at least 20% every year. And it's because I think we found a niche. We've had a lot of opportunities to do what we do outside the insurance industry. But what I'm really proud of is most of the people on my team actually come from the industry. So when it comes to marketing, as you guys know, we have a unique industry, unique language. And I think it's a little niche of ours where we get the industry, we get the language, and we can help you and your firm get a lot of attention.
So I think there's a lot of challenges that you help solve and problems. One being you have an industry that is older and maybe not as sexy or cool. So you have to make them marketing. Okay, that's tough. Then you also have people that are growing at 5 or 10% by being mediocre. And so maybe they also don't think they need help, or they're scared. They're salespeople. They don't think they're marketers. They love to hear themselves talk, but yet they don't love to market themselves out there, right? So I just feel like you have a tough, problems to solve, and you're solving them, and that's why you're having so much success.
Yeah, well, but to your point, there's days that it still feels like an uphill battle because we are an industry that is very proud of the past.
Yeah.
Right? I know sales leaders, agency owners who, if they're willing to be honest, haven't actively sold for 10 plus years because they've been maintaining a book, which they've earned, but they're still teaching their producers how to sell like they did in 1995. And a lot has changed.
Well, Jason's one of our big disruptors here. I mean, he can tell you too about how we've changed, the way we sell health benefits and some other things, but I think you guys will connect really well on this subject here.
Yeah, for sure. The status quo has dominated.
Oh, yeah. Especially in benefits.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so much so much has changed in benefits in the last 5 years that didn't change in the previous 30 years, right? So there's so much disruption and so much opportunity legislatively, all those legal requirements now, and all of the just overall innovation that in this space has been pretty amazing. When you're working with folks, how are you identifying talent? Right? There's one thing to coach, but what do you see as the common denominator for folks when you're identifying good talent?
Yeah, I mean, this is a timely question. Guffey and I actually talked about it on my podcast. We just had an advisor, Jason, win Broker of the Year in the industry, benefits, and it made me sit down and just lay out our top clients. And I just started describing the psychographics. Who are these people between the ears? And it came off the heels. I'll share this because this is really part of the story. We have a guy like Chris who won Broker of the Year, and then we have over here some people we probably shouldn't do business with, and we're freaking out because their credit card got declined. I'm like, what's the issue here? Everybody on this end, competitive, loves to win, students of the game in all areas of life, not just business, but how to become a better husband, a wife, my health, everything. Lifelong learners, they're constantly trying to get better. When people tell them, hey, take the foot off the gas, they're like, no, I know I'm capable of more. The guy I just mentioned, we had a producer reach out recently who has a $7 million book. He could absolutely take his foot off the gas. He's like, but I want to get it to 20. That's what I'm looking for. People who have that, what can I do to constantly get better? On this end, when I look at people we should not have done business, or with people, I will look at them in the face on my Zoom chats and go, do not hire us. If I hear excuses, if I'm hearing what kind of guarantees do you give me, and I can sense they're hoping somebody else invests for them, not them, I know they're not going to be a good fit. So right there, you want to break down of who's coachable. That's a pretty fine line between who's coachable and who's just looking for a quick win.
And how long does it take for you to figure that out?
One Zoom chat, honestly.
One Zoom
I
chat.
can tell, and I ask some pretty, what I call the trigger questions, where I can tell based on how they answer the question, I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is going to be a fit for you. In fact, after I did that exercise, that week I had 3 prospects I talked to that I told them, do not invest in this. Because I knew I could tell the way they were responding and just their mentality, they wouldn't be a good fit for us.
And from a marketing perspective, you saying no, you're marketing. You're trying to get everyone's attention. You're trying to get in front of the right people. You saying no, do you feel like that gave you more clarity on who your ideal person
It was
is?
freeing And you and I have talked about this, man. I mean, we come from an industry that thinks all prospects are good prospects, right?
Yeah.
The second you get clear on who your avatar is, in the marketing world, they call it an avatar, right? And we've talked about this. It can't be just demographics. Just because you have a niche in real estate and construction does not mean everybody in that industry or those industries is a good fit. It's who are the people between the ears? How do they make decisions? What do they believe? What do they stand for? When you get clear on that, I think it just becomes, number one, saying no becomes easier. But when you find the right one, when you're sitting in front of them and you can tell, it is so powerful to look at that person in the face and say, you're exactly the type of person we work with.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is that level of clarity, at least for me, allows me to do my best work as well.
That's the punchline, right. Jason. These are the people who let you do your best work. It doesn't even feel like work.
Correct. And it's more effortless. It's more seamless in the process, and you have the full faith and investment of that client. It just makes it so much more efficient and better for all.
100%
involved. So that's interesting that you say that.
And so the people that are listening, it's like, who allows you to do your best work and why?
Yep.
And you write it down, you get real clear about it. And there are another 20 or 50 people or businesses or clients like that in the country, and probably a whole lot more that you can go attract and do.
Well, and here's how easy it is nowadays, Guffey. We talked about this when you gave me a tour and we were in the bullpen. If you're a producer right now, and you want to learn how to attract the right person, when you take the time to sit down and do the exercise of who is my favorite client today, who are they between the ears, what do they believe, what do they stand for, I laid it out for us, right? Competitive, they love to win, they're lifelong learners, students of the game. If you would go and spend 20 minutes on ChatGPT and literally create a prompt outlining your ideal prospect using all of those psychographics, you have the unlock now to create awesome content, emails, you name it. Because literally the game is to speak to that person and nobody else.
Yeah. Well, how do you get business owners' attention that are super busy and they're trying to take over the world? And what advice do you give to advisors to help get their attention?
It's number one, the more narrow you go, the wider you get, right? You do construction and real estate. Now, Jason, with benefits, are you doing any specific niches at all or anything unique that you're looking for?
Yeah, construction, manufacturing, and healthcare.
Perfect.
Kind of stay in that pocket.
I used to be a guy in benefits who said, why do we have to have a niche? Everybody has employees and they're all unhealthy, so they need help, right? But I've come to learn, no, you should still have some kind of niche. Why? Because the more narrow you go, the wider you get. When you have a niche, you can go wherever you want. You can work with somebody in Wisconsin, right? When you're an agency that hangs a sign on a shingle and says, we do life, we do commercial, we do benefits, we do dental, we do vision, we do retirement, those people are stuck geographically to a very small market because you're trying to be all things to all people. The one who says, no, this is what we're known for and this is what we do best can go wherever they want.
How are you seeing that translate into business acumen? I find that to be the biggest understanding of how that business works. Again, helps us do our best work by knowing how to best serve that client. But how are you able to translate that into marketing and better business acumen for advisors in those spaces?
Because when you know that industry inside and out, it makes your job easier with things like marketing because your only job is to speak to those people. When Guffey, you record a video and you come on and you give me the state of real estate in Arizona. If I'm in real estate in Arizona, guess what? You're my guy. And so I think it just makes your job easier to speak to the right person because you're so clear on who that is. Versus when you try to speak to everybody, that is the marketing message that gets drowned out in a sea of noise because you sound like every other broker out there. The worst thing you could have a prospect say to you is say, oh, so you're a health insurance broker. Because now they just lumped you in with 300 they've met in the last 10 years. You have to have something that stands out. Now, on top of that, when you have that niche, you become a thought leader. And thought leader, I think a lot of people have that word wrong because they hear thought leader and they think of all these famous people we know and they're the smartest person in the industry, the most innovative, they share ideas nobody else does. I like to take the word and just flip it. A thought leader is a leader of thoughts. So when somebody thinks about manufacturing benefits, we want them to think of Jason. That's the whole point. So when you have a very defined market, both demographically and psychographically, now it makes your job easier to speak to that person, which means the right people are going to raise their hand over time if you stay consistent.
And to Jason's point, like it's hard to lead people's thoughts if you don't understand their industry.
Correct.
They expect you to have insurance knowledge and, the general insurance space, but when you're in their industry, they look at you as a peer-to-peer, then you can really give them some advice of impact.
If you can take what you do, commercial or benefits, and tell me how it impacts me and my industry in my terms, you've got my attention.
Yeah, and attention is the name of the game.
It's just something as simple as benefits. Regardless of industry, if I'm targeting a CFO and I start talking about the traditional lingo we use in benefits, guess what's going to happen? Oh, you want to talk to our HR department? They're down the hallway. But if you can tell me how benefits impacts my P&L, because that's my focus, now you've got my attention. You got to understand how to speak the language of your buyer, whether it's their industry, their specific goals as a CEO or CFO. You have to understand how to speak their language, and that comes back to marketing.
Well, I have a question for you that I've had a hard time solving. You have the logo, or you have the agency brand, and then you have an advisor or producer brand. So how would you, if you were starting an agency of, let's call it 50 producers that you were in charge of?
Ooh, this is going to be fun.
You're 50 producers in charge of. Your brand has been around 100 years. You guys are growing. You got good name recognition. Would you have certain standards and things that the advisors have to adhere to, or would you say, hey, go be your unique self and do whatever you want? Is it a both type of approach? How would you do it if you were running the sales and marketing of a?
It's a great question. Number one, we'd start with the marketing of the firm.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to turn that puppy into a content media machine because guess what? It's going to become a recruiting weapon.
Okay.
Because if I see the content coming out from the firm and it looks like a fun place to work, guess where I want to work? Happens every time, by the way. Any agency we work with, we actually have a division. We do content for firms.
Okay.
They say it all the time. Wow, the thing we didn't expect was it's become kind of a recruiting weapon. Yeah. So that's number one.
Okay.
But now when you got producers on the team, Mahoney has visions, right? Or a vision statement, and they have a mission statement, and they have probably core values.
We do.
Number one, the employees have to abide by those. But I would say let your producers be brands as long as they align with your core values as a company. We can't have producers going rogue here. But as long as
producers love to go rogue.
Oh,
they like to go rogue.
But it's got to be in alignment with the vision of the company,
Totally.
right? And but I will say, I heard a friend, a fellow Insight Performance Group member, Seth Denson, say this about his firm. He's like, when we realized that our producers aren't renting our logo, we're actually renting their brand. He's like, that's when we started taking off.
I see.
And I think that's important is the agencies today, we talked about some big, large firms that in the industry I don't do business with because their motto is just go sell the logo. At the end of the day, prospects are buying the brands of the people they're selling or buying from producers. So you got to let your producers build their brands, but within the guidelines of the firm's core values for sure.
Okay.
I would let you said 50 producers? I'd let every one of them create content, build brands, show up as their authentic self, but it would have to be in alignment with what the firm is. And I've seen it go awry when it goes the other way, and it's not a good thing.
What are the foundations for beginning to build that brand? Right, you talked about earlier kind of building a brand. What are the foundations, the principles of that building?
Whether you're an agency or a producer, there's 4 questions you need to answer. Number one, what makes you unique? Now, what I don't want to hear is, Andy, I'm unique because I'm a trusted advisor. Great. Everybody says that.
We have access to markets.
No. What is it about your story that makes you unique? I interviewed Reagan. She's a former stay-at-home mom turned advisor, right? That's a part of her story. That's what makes her different. So that's number one. What makes you unique? Because your story is the only thing your competition can't replicate. Number 2, what do you do as well as anybody in the market?
As well or better?
I'd say as well, but you could say better.
We're talking about competition.
Because this is your zone of genius, right? That's your zone of genius. So you are real estate and construction, commercial real estate and construction.
Working with growth-minded individuals.
Growth-minded people in real estate and construction. Jason, you're manufacturing benefits, construction benefits, right? That's your thing. Third question, what do you want to be known for? That's a legacy question. Mm-hmm. When people think of it, they think of you. What do you want that to be? And that's the key there is, I think, for you to build brand awareness, this is where you have to be known for one thing. The analogy I always give is think of somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Today, we know him as a movie star. He was the governor of California, probably owns a bunch of businesses now. But what was his original thing he was known for? Bodybuilding. He didn't break through and create brand awareness until he became known for that. Then everything else happened. It's the same thing with producers. What's that thing you're going to be known for? That's how you're going to build brand awareness. That's where being a generalist today is hard because you're trying to be known for too many things. And then the fourth question is, if I were to sit down with your best clients, what would you want them saying about you? What are the words and the phrases? And then when we do this exercise, we narrow it down to the four pillars, the four core. And then at that point, those words and phrases are your judge and jury. Mm-hmm. You have to show up as that every day. By the way, we can do the same exercise with a firm.
Yeah.
Because there's too many people in the industry who are willing to be whoever they have to be to make money. That's not how you attract good clients. You got to have a consistent brand.
Oh, that makes total sense. So where does sales and marketing for insurance agencies go from here? From 2025, what does it look like in 2030?
You're going to get me in trouble. So let's start with the word marketing. For all the firms listening today, marketing is not your division that goes and gets quotes. That's quoting. The next time I hear an agency, we got a marketing team. No, that's your quoting team. Marketing and sales, Guffey, I think where does it go from here? It has pretty much become one and the same. I mean, if you really were to break them down, marketing is what generates leads. Sales is the act of closing them, right? I think for producers today, you have to do a mix of both because you have to get attention from your prospects, AKA marketing, but then you have to have a process to be able to turn them into clients. And that's really at the end of the day, what we do as a company. People call us sales coaching, and I hate it because I don't think we are sales coaches. What we're doing is helping producers and agencies build marketing and sales processes. What's your process to get attention, to open doors, and what's your process to turn those doors into closed business? And I think at the end of the day, the secret sauce out of all this is having a process. Most producers don't have a process to grab attention. So they wake up Monday morning and they don't have a plan of how they're going to go get a prospect attention. By the way, that can be picking up the phone.
Sure. But it's what Jason said about business acumen. A lot of salespeople, they're really good at sales, opening doors, closing, they make some good money, but if you have a book of sales, that means you don't have a process.
Correct.
But if you have a book of business, you have a system, a process that you believe in, and guess what? You're not hyperventilating over the outcome. You're hyperventilating over and focused on the system and making sure that's dialed in because that is scalable and repeatable and predictable. It's interesting. You can't get focused on the outcome, but the best way to predict the outcome is the system.
Well, and I'll tell you, the biggest secret to good marketing today is having the ability to answer the following three questions clearly. Who are you talking to? What are you saying? And where are you saying it?
Yeah.
Because the other mistake agencies make with marketing, and literally this is happening with a prospect of mine right now because I was on a call with them last week. The marketing team hired a 23-year-old out of college. Why? Because she knows social media. I said, great. What she's going to do now is sit in your office and expect you to give her the message to go create marketing. And what you're going to do is give her a really bad message. So now she's just going to create a lot of really bad content. But if you get clear on who you're going after, what are you saying and where are you saying it, it all comes together. And the where, the keys to those three answers is who, psychographics. We talked about that, right? Who are these people between the ears? Mm-hmm. What are you saying? Tell their story, not yours. Nobody cares how long your agency has been around, how many years of expertise it has. They want to know what's in it for them. Mm-hmm. And then the where is what are you doing to get one message in front of a lot of prospects at one time? Social media, webinars, public speaking, podcasting, right? Those are all opportunities to get a message out far, fast, and wide. If you do those three things well, you will have an effective marketing strategy. That can be done at the agency level, but that can also be done at the producer level.
What are you seeing market trends related to all the consolidation, Andy, right? There's just agencies buying other agencies constantly. It's been a huge disruption and opportunity at the same time. But what are you seeing in the market?
I gotta believe there is a thirst for, we've had clients dealing with this right now, thirst for the independent regional players. I think are going to do really well with that. And I don't say it because I'm sitting in front of one.
You can say that again so the people in the back can
think
hear.
how strange this is. Now we have top 10 agencies buying other top 10 agencies.
Yeah.
It's no longer the big ones buying up the small independent ones. They're buying each other up now.
Well, they have a scoreboard to look at.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
And
So
that's the key.
They have to look at that scoreboard.
That scoreboard, when it becomes the investor's scoreboard, not what result are we creating for our clients, now we got a problem, right? And I do see a big opportunity right now for the mid. I think if you're a smaller independent agency, and I'll define smaller, maybe, I don't know, under a $20 million book if you sell commercial and benefits, you really got to do a good job with marketing because you got to find a way to stand out. Those are the folks that can often go overlooked being the best kept secret in town. Prospects can't buy what they can't see. Mid-level regional players, a Mahoney, a Hotchkiss, somebody like that who's got size but is still very much on the independent side, I see thriving right now. You have the strength, but you also have the independence to grab the attention the way you want. And I see businesses, prospects starting to look for that. Because they're seeing what's happening up here when the bigger buy the big.
Yep. I mean, their governance is their stock price, right?
Yep.
And
It's the same thing with the carriers in the health insurance space, right? But
sure.
at the end of the day, their governance is the stock price. There's no wonder your premiums are going up every year. Your premium is their profit.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So are your claims. When you are, what brought you into this space? I know we touched on it earlier, Andy, but like, why did you make the full transition? You mentioned your gifts and talents,
Yeah.
and what we call or identify as our highest and best use of time. But what was it? What was the aha moment you had to be a coach?
That's a great question. Well, the one with the breakfast conversation with Jeff definitely kind of got my brain going, but there was a specific moment. So, about 2 years into this being a side hustle, like I said, I was still fully selling health insurance and coaching on the side. I had a day where I lost like 3 or 4 coaching clients, and I was down to just a small handful. And it was that moment where I thought about, well, maybe this isn't just meant to be, and I'll go just keep selling health insurance. Glad I didn't give up my book, right? And that was October. I think that was October of 2020. It was during the pandemic. And I made a decision in that moment. I remember going to bed that night, and I just got my ass kicked that day. I went to bed that night going, no. I'm excited to do this again tomorrow. This is like a puzzle I'm trying to figure out. And when I woke up the next day, I did 3 things.
Cold
I wasn't cold plunging back then. I did 3 things that I want everybody to hear. Number 1, I invested over $15,000 in my own development that I did not have at the time. I joined a mastermind for entrepreneurs. I hired my own business coach, and then I joined a men's retreat that one of my buddies was hosting. And then I also made a decision that at the beginning of the year, January 1st, 2021, I'm letting go of my book and I'm going all in on this.
But what was it? What deepened that why? Guffey talks about all the time.
It was getting beat up that day before, but loving it.
Oh.
That was the piece where I realized I can be an entrepreneur. I can grow a business. I got my butt kicked, but I'm ready to come back for more.
And then he gave something up. So that process we talked about.
And I realized I'm serving 2 masters right now. And I said, there's no way I can serve 2 masters. And at the time, I had some coaching prospects question the fact I was still selling insurance.
Sure.
They're like, what, are you a competitor? I'm not sure. And I said that I'm going all in. And that's when it went the second, even though I hadn't quite done it yet, the second I made the decision mentally that I'm going to let go of the book and I'm doing this, everything became clear.
Clarity.
You have to go all in. Whether you sell insurance or I'm starting a coaching business, you have to bet on yourself. You can't expect this goes back to who's our ideal fit. When you expect your boss to invest in for you, you're not bought in.
Yeah. I totally agree. And you mentioned too, you gave something up. You gave up your book.
Yep.
There's things you have to give up if you want to go to the next level in anything.
You and I talked about on my podcast, your ability to say no.
Your ability to say no. I remember I gave up. I had my third child. I was still trying to, when I say I had my third child, my wife, had the child, but the book of business was growing, third child, and something had to give. I gave up golf.
I was going to say, I thought you were about to say, I gave up my third child.
No, I wouldn't give her up. I give up the second one, maybe. But no, yeah. So you got to give, whether it's, you give your money to a financial advisor, you just give up trying to invest yourself and trade stocks, whether you're hiring an assistant, an executive assistant for your house or for your family, or, you give up golf or a hobby. If you give something up and you deepen your why, always, that's when you level up.
Yep. Well, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys. I mean, you're successful for a reason. You love doing what you're doing.
We love it.
And I think that's a rare trait for people that I see is when I see that they love doing what they're doing, where like one, it doesn't feel like work. I'll tell you, I love working. I love growing my business. I'll do it on a Saturday. I'll do it on a Sunday. I'm not a guy who works Monday through Friday. My biggest problem is I love to work. So sometimes I can do it too much. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you that's a trait I see, a common trait I see amongst some of the most successful advisors.
Yeah.
Not that they're sacrificing family and other things, but they just love to work. They love doing what they're doing. Yeah. That'll take you so far in any career.
So fun.
Yeah. I didn't talk to Jason about this, but tell us about, you did is it called the Camino, the hike, the walk?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
Spain and you did that with a group of entrepreneurs?
The same guy that I invested in that men's retreat in 2020, same guy hosted this. Yep.
So tell us how that was impactful for you, why that was good. Before we let you go, and then Jason may have another question.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. I'd never been across the pond in Europe, so that was my first trip. We actually started just inside France.
Okay.
But we had spent the first day in Pamplona, where they do the running of the bulls in Spain, and then we drove up to France and then hiked. I think we ended up doing about 50 miles of the Camino.
It's a 50-mile hike. It's the Camino.
Over 3 days.
It's been around. It's a path that, people have been walking since 4 or 5
hundreds of years, if not thousands. Yeah. It's a religious pilgrimage.
Yeah, correct. And that's how they got kind of around back then. And so how was that for you, though?
It was awesome, man. I mean, the first hike, the first day was hard because you go up over the mountains, basically, in France into Spain.
Okay.
And that was really cool. That was, if anybody's ever wants to know more about it, there's a movie about it called The Way.
Okay.
Emilio Estevez is in it.
Oh, okay. Mr. Mighty Ducks.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, so we did 3 days, total of 50 miles. But I think the whole trail is about 500 miles. But it was just, we had moments. Kyle does such a great job when he curates these trips. Like the third day when we were on our last leg back into Pamplona, he made us hike in silence for an hour.
Mm.
And that we had to separate from each other and just hike by yourself. Like just seeing how people live in another world like that, hiking through these little villages, it got me so clear about what I was doing with my business. I think just putting yourself in a different scenario, putting yourself outside your comfort zone, not that the hiking was overly challenging, but it was just a different setting. Around a group of guys who are all playing at a high level in different businesses. That's invaluable.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it was a religious, there's a religious tone to the hike and all that stuff. But I even thought, Guffey, it was just so cool. Like the first day we hike up over the mountains, come into this little village in Spain and spend the night in a hotel that was built in 1130.
Isn't that crazy? We're little babies here in America,
Yeah. But if you ever get a chance, absolutely do it.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
What's the biggest piece of advice you can give to new advisors?
Bet on yourself. I know that sounds cliche, but just don't expect anybody else to create success for you.
Those first couple of years are just tough, right?
And it's persistence. You're going to get kicked in the face. You're going to get punched in the face. And I'll say from a marketing perspective, we've arrived at a day where you've got to think of yourself like a little media company who happens to sell insurance. What are you doing to get your prospects' attention? I said this, I hosted a webinar, Jason, a couple of years ago, and one of my good friends who's built a nice brand in the retirement space, was on leading talking about video content. And he said something that I absolutely loved. He said, I want all the veterans on this webinar to hear this. We're arriving at a day and age that we're going to see an influx of young, new advisors come in the industry because they see the financial opportunity, but they're going to get something you don't, content. And they're going to start taking your business. And you're going to be mad because you think it's all about expertise, knowledge, and relationships and how long you've been around. Nobody cares. People are going to see them all the time because of content, and they're going to become the go-to.
All right, one last question. It's just us talking. Part of my business plan, because sometimes it's difficult to get in touch with ideal client profiles or ideal client prospects, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of the process, and you have to deal with it. I think my last kind of coup de grace is I'm going to drop off puppies. I've been talking about it for about a year. I'm seriously considering this.
Dropping off puppies. I need to know more.
Well,
are we stealing puppies?
No. There's no crime.
There's
no crime. I just want to call back. I just want the opportunity.
How do you call someone back or don't call someone back that drops off a puppy?
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, everybody melts with puppies unless they're like a diehard cat person.
Then that's probably not my idea.
Probably not a good thing. I agree. But, yeah, I could. One, as long as you obtain said puppies legally. Yeah, I could. I mean, you want to stand out. That's a way to do it.
I mean, who doesn't love a brand new chocolate lab, right?
Yeah, we've got a client who finds himself in a pretty big RFP right now to retain. I'm all about outside the box thinking. We've got a client right now who's participating in a big RFP for a massive client they're trying to keep, and it's just one of those things. The board's requiring them to do it, so now obviously they're nervous, and I said, what you guys need to do when you go into your finalist presentation, it happens to be a client who's in the same town as their office. I said, when you get to the end of the presentation, because they're going to go up against the big boys, right? They're the client's about your size, same as Mahoney. I said, what you guys need to do at the end of the presentation is say, and the biggest thing is we want you to know exactly who our team is that's here to help. And as you say that, I want a bus of your entire team showing up in the parking lot, all 200 of you, waving. I said, that is how you got to land that sale at that end of that final, because you got to think outside the box these days.
Well, that and
you want to look different, be different.
Yeah, the bigger houses will also profess a team.
They're going to bring their A team.
That's just a ghost. Yep. It just never exists in reality, right?
I got to tell you guys this. I lost an account once selling health insurance years ago to a big house for one reason. Yeah, you won't believe this. This was a business in central Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, and it was a Japanese-owned company. I lost the opportunity because the big house I was competing with had a guy in Georgia who spoke Japanese. How many times do you think they saw that advisor?
Yeah,
exactly. Zero.
But because there was a guy at this firm in Georgia who spoke Japanese, they thought that was the right move to make.
Should have konnichiwa.
Man. Oh, we're in an interesting business.
It is.
And you're
But it's what makes it fun, right?
And
it's a puzzle.
It is a puzzle, but you're helping lead the space on the marketing perspective. And so keep doing what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Anything we can do to help you let us know. You've done a lot for us, and we appreciate you. And
likewise.
Really appreciate you stopping by, man. So.
Yeah. No, love this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Andy.
Yep, you bet, guys.
Take care, man.
Tune in to next week's episode with Chris Waddell, a 13-time American Paralympic medalist. This is TMG People First Podcast. See you next week.